Hey there fellow Planeswalkers, it's Steve for Collector Mania, and today we're going to continue our Commander deck tech series. So, we are looking at two brand new legendary creatures from Battlebond, coming out this Friday, I believe. So first up we've got a Kunai of Chaos, so 4 colors and a red legendary creature, Cyclops Berserker, partner with Zndrsplt, Eye of Wisdom. At the beginning of combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. Whenever a player wins a coin flip, double a Kun's power and toughness until end of turn. So obviously a huge powerhouse here. This thing just becomes a massive monster right off the bat. It's kind of crazy. In playtesting I didn't think this was going to work out that well, but overall I think it actually is pretty powerful. On the flip side we've got Zndrsplt, Eye of Wisdom, so 4 colors and a blue, Homunculus. 1/4, partner with a Kun, Eye of Chaos. At the beginning of combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. Whenever a player wins a coin flip, draw a card. So once again, pretty powerful. I didn't expect this to do too much, but in some of the playtesting I've done, it actually gets pretty insane. I mean, if you think about it, you have a chance to string 2 coin flips right off the bat just by having both your commanders in play. So say you get 2 on each, I mean that is already drawing 4 cards and then doubling a Kun's power all the way up to like 48 or something like that. It might be 24, I might be misjudging my math there, but still really powerful, and you know, one shot with commander damage, that's pretty good. So anyway, the deck is built a lot around like the Izzet Blitz strategy, so a lot of like that early game, swift attackers. There's a lot of mana rocks in here, a lot of ways to give our commanders haste, that way we can just attack with a Kun early on, and then a lot of ways to get rid of our opponent's blockers, so it's almost like a tempo-y type strategy. And of course it breaks into that coin flip type sub-theme, which is just kind of fun, so it has a little bit of whimsy to it, which is always good. So with that, let's go ahead and break into the deck. So first up we've got Ralzeric, of course. This is the marquee planeswalker for this deck automatically. I think it even price spiked a little bit because of the addition of these 2 in the commander roster. So 2 colors, a blue and a red, 4 loyalty. Really what we're after here is the first ability, which is tap target permanent and then untap another permanent. So you can tap down a blocker and then untap like a mana rock or land, whatever you need to do. And then the -7, flip 5 coins, take an extra turn after this one for each coin that comes up heads. So once again, it's hitting everything that we want it to do. It's drawing, you know, potentially drawing us cards with our commander, potentially doubling up our commander's power. Yeah, exactly what we want to be doing. Breaking into our creatures here, we've got Baral, Chief of Compliance. So we actually aren't running that many creatures in here. I think it's about 18 or so, 20 including our commanders. So we have a ton of instants and sorceries. This actually helps us out quite a bit. A lot of our strategy is built around just, you know, flying by the seat of our pants and casting Fling or, you know, anything like that. So good addition here. And then we've got Goblin Diplomats. This is a way to kind of manipulate our opponent's turns, so we can make it so one of our opponents has to attack with all of their creatures, and as long as they don't have another creature to play after their combat step, we can actually just swing in freely, which is exactly what we're wanting to do. It's just a goofy card. I like it. I love the artwork too. And then we've got a Goblin Kaboomist. So in playtesting, I did not think this was going to work out, but actually it's pretty amazing. So if you think about it, you know, you just go to a few upkeeps, you keep getting these little landmines, essentially, and then you go to combat, you just sacrifice all these landmines. Even if you have to deal the damage to a Kun himself, it's really not that bad. He's going to be, you know, gaining power and toughness left and right, and then, yeah, the Goblin Kaboomist may bite the bullet, but who cares? You've basically gotten your triggers. I found that a good number here is like 4 or 5. You know, and if you have the mana up, you can just go crazy. Once again, like, stringing those coin flips together is what we're looking for. We, once again, don't really care that the Goblin Kaboomist may potentially perish. And we've got a Burnished Hart, a little bit of mana ramp. A Nivix Cyclops, so this is harkens back to the old Izzet Blitz, which is kind of what we're mirroring a little bit. We have a ton of instants and sorceries once again, so this actually could become a threat on its own, where if we make it unblockable, we could potentially kill somebody with it, or if we have the chance to fling it at somebody, we can also kill them with that. Then we've got a Taurean Mauler, another creature that just kind of gets larger over time, and then it potentially finishes somebody off with combat damage, or once again flinging it. Archaeomancer, great way to get back a lot of our instants and sorceries. Gigantoplasm, another big creature that could become even bigger depending on how much mana we have. Karplusan Minotaur, so this is one that Eric pointed out to me right away. So 2 colors, 2 red, Minotaur Warrior, cumulative upkeep of flip a coin, which is absolutely ridiculous. wow, I need to find a foil version of this right away. It's so cool. And then it says, whenever you win a coin flip, Karplusan Minotaur deals 1 damage to target creature or player, so a little bit of damage spread around. Whenever you lose a coin flip, Karplusan Minotaur deals 1 damage to target creature or player of an opponent's choice. So, once again, you know, it's a little bit risky, but if you're, you know, protecting these guys right, if you have the Swiftfoot Boots on your commander and maybe like another way to give hexproof on this guy, your opponents don't really have a good choice as far as where to put that damage. And you may even partner up with somebody and they might just start slinging that damage at somebody else. So it really just depends on what's going on. I think this is going to be a great addition though. They've got Two-Headed Giant, a new card from Dominaria that flips coins essentially, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Then we've got Creepy Doll. So this to me is one of the best blockers for our deck since we don't have that many creatures. And we can basically just block everything we need to as long as it doesn't have trample or, you know, like infect or something like that. So pretty cool addition here. I love that it flips a coin, which is exactly what we want it to do. Then we've got a Hoarding Dragon. We have a lot of key artifacts in this deck, so having this guy come out early and then just bite the bullet, die, go find, you know, give us our artifact is exactly what we want it to do. Plus 4/4 flyers are never bad. Then we've got an Icefall Regent, kind of the same deal here. Basically what we're trying to do is tap down blockers, and then, you know, if we need to, we can potentially finish off the game with this guy since he does have a little bit of like spell resistance, so on and so forth. Then we've got a Bloodshot Cyclops. So I've actually been playing this card in another deck that just makes massive creatures, but I think it works even better in here. So 5 colors and a red 4/4. You can tap, sacrifice a creature. Bloodshot Cyclops deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So this actually will come up later on in the deck when we get to the enchantments, but it's pretty important. I mean, being able to double up a Coon, and then just potentially kill somebody with commander damage and then immediately sacrifice him and kill another player just by flinging it at him, that could be pretty cool. And then you're down to 1v1 and you're probably going to win that fight for sure. And they've got Charmbreaker Devils, another great addition. Once again, going back to the Izzet Blitz strategy, this actually works really, really well with the instants and sorceries that we're going to be casting, like Temur Battle Rage and so on and so forth. Getting +4/+0 until end of turn. It turns itself into a huge attacker, but it also turns itself into a huge fling target as well. Plus the beginning of upkeep trigger, you know, returning a random instant and sorcery can actually work pretty well under our favor. We pretty much want all of them back anyway. Then we've got a Deepfathom Skulker. So a good way to give our commander unblockable, you know, if we're doubling up, and then we get blocked by a 1/1, we're going to feel really bad. So having something like this that can give it that little bit of boost and just get it through and then just nail somebody for a ton of damage is exactly what we're trying to do. Plus, the added benefit of whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. That can come in handy as well. Then I've got a Roil Elemental, just gaining control of those blockers. Elder Deep-Fiend, I've been including this in more and more decks. It's actually a pretty cool trick. I mean, being able to flash it in, potentially tap down 4 attackers and then, well, not attackers, tap down 4 creatures before they go to attacks and then chump block whatever else they have left is actually pretty cool. It works out pretty well. Plus, the way that I'm using it in this deck is, you know, flashing it in, tapping down 4 blockers, and then swinging, and that's exactly what we want to be doing. Then we're moving on to our artifacts here. Of course, Mana Crypt is something that is an auto-include. It flips a coin at the beginning of your upkeep regardless of what's going on. Yeah, we may take 3 damage here and there, but you know, it's automatically going to trigger our Zndrsplt and Okaun. So think about it, if we win the flip, we get to draw a card and double our power and toughness already, and then it just hasn't even really begun our turn, so that's pretty powerful. Then we've got Soul Ring, of course, a Empyrial Plate. So once again, in playtesting, hooking this up to a Coon or even Zndrsplt sometimes is really, really cool, because then not only are you splitting your attacks if you split them up, or just putting it on Coon, it's just becoming more and more of a monster, like giant quicker, essentially. And we're going to be drawing a lot of cards, you know, so that's pretty cool. Then I've got an Izzet Signet, a little bit of mana ramp, Croc's Thumb, so this is a auto-include once again, so 2 colorless. If you would want to flip a coin, or if you would flip a coin, instead flip 2 coins and ignore 1. So pretty amazing, you know, ability for this deck. We want it all the time, and this is one of those things that the Hoarding Dragon is going to go for automatically. Yeah, I would pick up my copies now. It's already at like $9. I need to find myself one. I think Eric said he might have one in the back of the store somewhere for me. We'll see what happens there, but I'm needing this one really bad. And we've got a Mind Stone, Swiftfoot Boots, so of course a little bit of protection. Thought Vessel, once again we're going to be drawing a ton of cards, so having effects like this is always good. Trailblazer's Boots, so a little bit of pseudo unblockable as long as our opponents aren't like playing like super budget and just have basic lands. You know, most of the time in Commander they've got to have something non-basic, so this will work pretty well for us. Eye of Ramos. I've been liking these types of artifacts more and more, the ones that can essentially sacrifice and add another mana to your mana pool, so in a pinch it can work out pretty good. Then we've got a Hammer of Purphoros. Of course we want a lot of our creatures to have haste, especially both of our commanders really. But this is also with a lot of our gain control effects, as you'll see later on in the spell slot. This actually works out in our favor quite a bit because some of those effects don't even give them haste, which is kind of odd because most of them do, but we'll run into a few that don't. Plus the added benefit of maybe being able to sacrifice a land later on in the game that we don't need and turn it into a 3/3 isn't bad either. Heart of Ramos. I've got a Loxodon Warhammer, so trample is important, plus lifelink, that's amazing. Whisper Silk Cloak, so Shroud. This one's a little bit, I don't know, I've been kind of debating about taking it out just because, yeah, it does give that unblockable, but a lot of our strategy is being able to sacrifice our commander and then fling it at somebody, so this may not be what we're after. For now, though, I think it's the best choice for, you know, just having an equipment that gives unblockable. We'll see what happens, though. Then we're moving on to our enchantments, so we've got Goblin Bomb. So this is really interesting. So a colorless and a red. During your upkeep, you may choose to flip a coin, which we always will. Target opponent calls heads or tails, so it's putting it on our opponent too. While the coin is in the air, if the flip ends up in your favor, put a fuse counter on Goblin Bomb. Otherwise, remove a fuse counter from Goblin Bomb. Then it says remove 5 fuse counters from Goblin Bomb, sacrifice Goblin Bomb. Goblin Bomb deals 20 damage to target player. So, it's basically doing exactly what we want to do once again at our upkeep, and that's all we're really after here. We're not going to concern ourselves with always being able to deal 20 damage to somebody, but when it happens, it's going to be amazing. I honestly don't care how many fuse counters go on this. I would rather keep it around for as long as I can, but if it has that added benefit of knocking a player out later in the game, I'm all for it, really. They've got a Curator's Ward. I've been adding this to more and more decks, so 2 colors and a blue. Enchant Permanent. Enchanted Permanent has hexproof, so we can even hit some of our enchantments with this and like protect them, some of our artifacts, key artifacts, so on and so forth. Whenever Enchanted Permanent leaves the battlefield, if it was historic, draw 2 cards. So most of the time, once again, we're going to be putting this on our commander. So if they happen to bite the bullet, we can draw 2 cards, and it kind of replaces them a little bit, so not too bad at all. Next up, we've got a Planar Chaos, so 2 colors and a red at the beginning of your upkeep. Flip a coin. If you lose the flip, sacrifice Planar Chaos. I'm having a hard time saying flip coins now. Been saying it too much. Whenever a player flips a spell, whenever a player plays a spell, that player flips a coin. If he or she loses the flip, counter that spell. So, I look at this as kind of a one upkeep round, you know, because there's always that chance that on the first upkeep that you have it, you're going to flip a coin and lose, and then it's going to get sacrificed. Regardless, you're still flipping a coin, and hopefully you have Zndrsplt out, you know, before you play this, and then you're drawing potentially 3 cards, you know, so on and so forth. So look at it that way. When it does stick around, it's going to be amazing. If it sticks around for 2 or 3 turns, whatever, it's going to be ridiculous because your opponents are really going to have to think about the way they're playing their spells. They've got Chance Encounter. So another auto-include in my opinion, so 2 colors, 2 red whenever you flip a coin, or win a coin flip, put a luck counter on Chance Encounter. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Chance Encounter has 10 or more luck counters on it, you win the game. So alternate win conditions are always fun, especially ones that are wacky like this. It doesn't seem too all-powerful to me. Like, there's a lot of them that I'm just like, okay, that's just too easy. This one seems really difficult, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got Collective Restraint, just a little bit of a way to protect ourselves for the most part. War's Toll, so 3 colors and a red. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, tap all lands that player controls, which is what we're after for the most part. Shutting down that instant speed response to our commander swinging at somebody is exactly what we're trying to do. If a creature an opponent controls attacks, all creatures that opponent control attack if able. That's another thing that we're really trying to do, you know, same with like the Goblin Diplomats type of ability. Then we've got Gratuitous Violence. Like I was saying earlier, the Cyclops matters here, so 2 colors, 3 red. If a creature you control would deal damage to a creature or player, it deals double that damage to that creature or player instead. So with that Cyclops, all of a sudden our like 6 power guy turns into 12 damage when it ges sacrificed, so on and so forth. We can really just finish an opponent off pretty quick with that. Plus, once again, if we don't end up winning a lot of flips with a Kun, it's still you know, could be a huge threat. So we'll see what happens there. Then we're moving on to our instant speed spells. We've got a Flusterstorm, so just a great counter spell. You know, we really want cheap spells that we can continue to cast, you know, like 1 spell, 2 spells, 3 spells. That way we can stack up our triggers, so on and so forth. You know, say we're going the Nivix Cyclops route, we really want those cheap spells to just fly out of our hands, especially since we're going to be drawing all of them with Zndrsplt. So keeping that in mind, we also have like the Storm ability going on here, which is also what we're after, so it's overall perfect for what we're trying to do. Then we've got a Cyclonic Rift, one of the best blue spells ever. We've got a Fling, which is basically what we're trying to do. Negate, one of the best counterspells in my opinion for this format. I've gotten out of more pinches with this crazy spell than I can even say, and people rarely see it coming. It's just like the same kind of thing with Swan Song. I run this one just because it's a little bit more budget, and you can basically include it in any deck that has blue in it. I've got a Reality Shift, another really cool removal spell. I kind of debated about putting this one in here just because it does leave behind a blocker, which isn't what we're trying to do. But in a lot of ways you can get rid of that blocker pretty easily, and then it'll just, you know, disappear again. I've got Temur Battle Rage, so I've actually used this card in Commander before, and it works really, really well. You can potentially kill somebody else with somebody else's commander. You know, you just give them double strike, and then all of a sudden your opponent finishes off one of your opponents for you, and that's really powerful. Plus, once again with Okaun, being able to give a double strike and then for sure trample is going to be amazing. Yeah, we really want that effect. I've got Capsize, a little bit of bouncing back some permanents. Soul's Fire, an amazing card for the deck, so 2 colors and a red, instant speed. Target creature control in play deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So our opponents are going to constantly have to worry if this is in our hands, because we can just finish somebody off with a few chains of, once again, flipping coins and getting what we want, and just like nail somebody with this. Aetherize, great way to protect ourselves. Cryptic Command, a great way to tap down all of our opponent's creatures, counter a spell, or draw a card, or, you know, this thing is amazing. It does everything we want it to do. Then we've got a Domineering Will, so as I was talking about, it's important for us to have haste for our creatures because of effects like this. 3 colors and a blue, target player gains control of up to 3 target non-attacking creatures until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they block this turn if able. So I'm looking at this as like a defensive spell, but also it can be used as offensive because you can gain control of like whatever blockers an opponent has, potentially give them haste, potentially swing with them, and then just get through with the Coon, which is mainly what we're trying to do. I've got Grab the Reins, great way to sacrifice a commander or potentially sacrifice a threat. So I kind of look at this like removal. It's pretty expensive removal, you know, 7 costs to gain control of it, then sacrifice it, but then deal a lot of damage. So I don't know, not bad though. I like the card a lot in here. Then we've got Turnabout. Another way to have benefit on offense and defense, and also be able to untap all of our lands or not our mana rocks or whatever, make a ton of mana. Overall, just an amazing spell. I included in a ton of decks for that reason. Then we've got Mystic Confluence. I love that this is being reprinted in Battlebond. It needed a reprint. I mean, people love this card. I am one of them. It does, in my opinion, nowadays it's actually better in Commander than Cryptic Command, which I know sounds crazy, but it's 100% true. It's a lot better to have this in your hand because you can cast it a lot easier, and it goes into a lot more decks than Cryptic Command does. Unfortunately, you know, that one kind of got dethroned by this card, which is totally fair because it's an amazing card. Then we've got a Fiery Gambit. Of course, this is another auto-include in this deck. So 2 colors and a red. Flip a coin until you lose a flip or choose to stop flipping. If you lose a flip, Fiery Gambit has no effect. If you win or 1 or more flips, Fiery Gambit deals 3 damage to target creature. If you win 2 or more flips, Fiery Gambit deals 6 damage to target opponent. If you win 3 or more flips, draw 9 cards and untap all lands you control. Of course, we're going for the 3rd effect, but that's 3 flips in a row that we got to get right. Regardless, once again, as long as we're flipping coins, we're doing exactly what our commanders want us to do. And if we get that super benefit of drawing 9 cards and untapping all of our lands, that's just gravy, you know? Then we've got a Rupture, so 2 colors and a red. Sacrifice a creature. Rupture deals damage equal to that creature's power to each creature without flying on each player. So We've got to be a little bit careful with this because we can finish ourselves out, or off, you know, basically. But it can also be like a pretty good board wipe, and, you know, really if we're in a pinch and we have a lot more life than our opponents, we can kind of play this by ear and then potentially kill everybody but ourselves, or even just kill ourselves too. You know, there are those chaotic games where you're just like, I just want this thing to end, so I'm just going to destroy all of us. Now we've got a Stitch in Time, just a goofy spell. I don't know if I would actually include this in a regular deck besides this, because it's kind of, you know, usually when you take turns you make yourself a target, and then, you know, if you fail on that take a turn, you are just kind of like, oh well, now I'm a target and I didn't get any benefit. But in here it makes a lot of sense. Flipping coins, like I said, is what we're trying to do. I've got a Relentless Assault. You know, having those extra combat phases is great, and we really want them. So this is the only effect I included, but you can go, sky's the limit with this. You can include as many as you want to. I tend to be a little light on them just because I know, you know, other players don't really care for them too much. I've got Chandra's Ignition. I really have to call out Alex here from Deck Builder Society. He did a deck tech on these guys a little while ago, and I didn't even think about this card. He definitely brought it up in an amazing way. So 3 colors, 2 red. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. That's amazing. So it's better than our Rupture by a long shot, and it basically does exactly what I want it to do. And I've got Zndrsplt's Judgment, so 4 colors and a blue, sorcery. For each player, choose friend or foe, and I love these cards, I'll say that right now. Each friend creates a token that's a copy of a creature they control. Each foe returns a creature they control to its owner's hand. So, once again, it's doing exactly what we want it to do. It's, you know, potentially making a copy of, like, our Charmbreaker Devils or something like that for us, and then it's also returning those blockers to our opponent's hands, which is perfect. Then we've got a game plan. This is our reshuffle effect, so 5 colors and a blue. It's got assists, so our opponents can actually help us out with this if they need a reshuffle as well. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards, exile game plan. So great for like nailing graveyard decks. Usually you're going to have 2 other players that are with you on that too, so it'll work great there. Once again, great way to stop yourself from milling yourself out, which is definitely possible with Zndrsplt, so on and so forth. Just a cool card, really. Now we're moving on to our lands. We've got Evolving Wilds, Forgotten Cave, Izzet Guildgate, Reliquary Tower, Rogue's Passage, a great way to get through with a Kun, Shivan Reef, Steam Bins, Sulphur Falls, Swiftwater Cliffs, Temple of Epiphany, Islands, and Mountains. I believe there's 14 islands and 15 mountains. And that is the deck tech. So I hope, as always, you guys have enjoyed and look forward to the next deck tech. We're going to be focusing on Battlebond for a little bit, you know, trying to get a few of these out here. I know that the pair that I really want to pay attention to is the Ragna and Krav. Those guys are ridiculous in my opinion. I've done actually some two-headed giant stuff for Alternate Tuesday that you guys can check out, where I've actually built like a partner deck for them. Or not a partner, a two-headed giant specifically deck for them, where they can't share cards and all that good stuff. So check that out. I'll try and put a link in the end of the video here so you guys can get to that a little bit easier. Also, I'm looking to do this as another Alternate Tuesday version where I take Zndrsplt, build a deck for Zndrsplt, and then take a Kun and build a deck for a Kun. That way when you go to two-headed giant, you can just partner up with somebody and you already have the decks automatically built, and that way you don't have to worry about like, oh, I gotta take this card out, you gotta put this card in, so on and so forth kind of thing. So anyway, once again, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and we will see you guys next time.